COP26, which is a climate change summit being held in Glasgow, of all places. So 25,000 delegates are going to fly into Glasgow and try and convince everyone to burn less fossil fuels. I mean, unless you're doing something really vital and important, like flying to Glasgow for a taxpayer-sponsored party. So yeah, the SNP are obviously already screwing it. It hasn't even started. It starts at the 31st of October. It hasn't even started, and the SNP are already screwing up. So the next slide or thing. So basically, the SNP hired a fleet of it's not Teslas. It was reported as Teslas, and then like this is an interesting thing. Like the fact change people said, "Oh no, this is a lie. They're not hiring Teslas." It's like, well, they're hiring Jaguars.
Oh,
electric Jaguars, which isn't like, it doesn't mean that it's, they're not lavishing huge amounts of, taxpayer largesse on these people. Jaguars are more expensive than Teslas. But anyway, they've hired a fleet of Jaguars, electric Jaguars, to ferry the delegates around. But there's not enough charging points. So they're having to hire diesel generators and carry them around on flatbed trucks to power the electric cars, which just blows my mind. I mean, there's no way that that's more efficient than just hiring diesel cars.
No.
You know what I mean? Hiring a diesel engine to create electricity to put into an electric car is definitely less environmentally friendly than just driving a diesel car. It's
amazing.
Insanity. I mean, you couldn't make this up. Just the farcical state of the SNP. I mean, it's lucky no part of the climate conference involves some sort of alcohol imbibement in a place that creates alcohol.
It does sound like a skit out of The Office or something, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It's so cartoonishly stupid.
It is insane. And apparently electric cars, electric cars aren't as aren't that great. I mean, as well as obviously there's a lot of the toxic metals and stuff that are involved in the batteries. So Munich is banning electric vehicles because they keep burning.
Good news.
That looks like a terrorist attack.
Yes, it does.
But yeah, it's just an electric bus that's blown up.
I saw a video of this happening the other day where it was like a CCTV camera of just a bay with a bunch of vehicles that were charging. One of them catches fire, and then they all catch fire and they all burn down.
Right. Jeez.
Mad.
So it just goes on like one to the next.
Yeah, exactly. And I was just like, Christ.
Yeah, like in is it Grand Theft Auto where that happens?
Basically, yeah.
Yes. And the next tab. So as well as flying everybody in and giving them all electric Jaguars, they've eased COVID travel restrictions for that because apparently COVID doesn't transmit. It's not a problem when you're trying to save the environment. Like it wasn't a problem when you're protesting against Black Lives Matter.
Oh, you don't need your vaccine passports.
Yeah, but why do we even bother developing a vaccine?
That's a great question.
We could have just, joined Greenpeace and bought White Fragility by Robin DiAngelo. You know what I mean? Like, if COVID is a thing, it's a thing for these people as well as for us. It's a thing for climate change conferences and Black Lives Matter rallies, as well as nightclubs and comedy clubs and football stadiums.
Because they do have those vaccine passports for those in Scotland, don't they?
Yeah, so vaccine passports are now mandatory in Scotland, although very easy to fake.
We don't encourage faking vaccine passports.
I 100% encourage faking vaccine passports, so you can just get a screenshot. We might get in trouble for that, so we're not going to encourage that. Okay. So yeah, I mean, I just think this is disgusting hypocrisy, and also, if you're going to, they keep banging on about how COVID is such so dangerous and it's contributing to everything like the supply chain and all kinds of issues, and then they're like, oh no, but our thing we don't need it. It's not for us. It's just for you guys. So the next tab. I mean, the whole all green policy, all climate change stuff is just elitist people's, and the data, the science is so nebulous, and the data's been manipulated so much, and it's so many things crunched together. I mean, I used to work as a criminal intelligence analyst, and when we were evaluating police operations, man, we never had an unsuccessful one because you can manipulate the data to show anything you want. You cherry pick, whatever times and patterns and whatever you're reviewing, you can always show success. So you can make data show whatever you want, and I feel the same thing's happening with climate change, and that it's elitists sort of giving themselves high-paying roles. There's so much money; it's a real industry, and it's all paid for by taxpayers. So, I mean, for example, the delegates to COP26 are going to get free smart cards for travel on public transport in Glasgow. And, you know, not only is it free, it's not free for Glaswegians, it's going to be free for them. Glaswegians don't even get, there's no smart card system like you can in London. There's no smart card system in Glasgow. Why, if there's a smart card system available, why don't we all get to use it? You know what I mean? It's ridiculous.
Wow, that really does just highlight the two-tier society.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, it couldn't be more.
You've got these free
obvious.
smart cards, and Glasweg's like, what?
Yeah. And they're like, oh, no, not for you, you plebs.
Yeah,
this is just for Leonardo DiCaprio. Oh, and so the next tab, I've got an artist's impression of what it would look like when Leonardo. If you just scroll down, this is Leonardo DiCaprio getting on the tube at Cessnock. So yeah, and there's strikes. So because you know the eyes of the world are going to be in Scotland, everyone is striking. So train drivers, which means you know they're not going to be able to use low carbon public transport to get around. Council staff, so bin men, school janitors, cleaners, and cooks, they're all on strike, doing even less work than usual for public sector workers, and lawyers are also striking. They've gone on strike, which, you know,
there's a benefit to everything.
Yeah, but who's going to represent all the crusties who get arrested at the protest?
Oh no, the left-wing human rights lawyers aren't going to screw the country up for 5 minutes. Terrible.
Yeah, the next tab. So even Greta Thunberg thinks Scotland is not a world leader on climate change.
Well, if Greta Thunberg said it, then it's gospel now.
So she'll be, you know, riding her horse or yacht or whatever to the conference, no doubt. The Queen has also criticised the climate conference, saying, you know, these things never make any substantial change. Which I agree with her on that. It's really just an excuse for a bunch of world leaders to have a jolly, have some free lunches, and get drunk at taxpayers' expense.
Yep.
The next tab, so we can see some of the failures of the SNP. So all of Scotland's steel is shipped abroad for recycling. You know, Scotland's like, the SNP is like, oh, we do so much recycling. It's no, you ship it to other countries. And obviously the standards and the sort of oversight in other countries isn't anywhere near as strong as it is in, you know, a Western country.
Which is presumably why they do it.
Yeah. So, I mean, a lot of this, when recycling is shipped abroad, a lot of it gets burnt, a lot of it isn't recycled. It can be hugely environmentally damaging. And not just for that country, but also, you know, when they're burning plastic or whatever, it's going into the air. And putting all the greenhouse gases and incredibly toxic gases back into the air. The next tab shows that while we're talking about plastic, so 3 tons a minute from Scotland of plastic waste, that's 1.7 million tons of rubbish a year is exported to other countries to be dealt with. And it's not being exported to, like, you know, Sweden or somewhere like that. It's being exported to the third world, where you've got unscrupulous companies trying to make a quick buck, and you know, you might as well get Tony Soprano to deal with it. It's all like going in the canal or getting burnt, or you know, it's not being dealt with properly. And this is a real scandal of green policy. I think because you know, after everybody making so much effort to separate out their plastics and put it in the right bucket and all the rest of it,
and none of it matters,
giving themselves a pat in the back, it just goes to Gambia and gets burnt in the middle of the jungle or whatever. So yeah, more failures. So the SNP said they were going to set up a state-run energy company, which was going to sell on gas and electricity to the consumer at cost prices. And that hasn't happened. But they've spent £500,000 on consultants to fanny around and not actually do anything. The next one, another SNP target that's been missed if you scroll down. So there's supposed to be 10% of journeys by bike in Scotland, and they missed it. Not missed it by a bit. They've missed it by a lot. So only 4% of journeys in Scotland are being taken by bike, which I understand. Scotland, I mean, it's very hilly and it rains all the time.
Yeah, you don't want to go cycling there.
It's not Holland. You know, you go to Holland and it's like the cycling there's lovely because you never have to break a sweat. But yeah, and another SNP failing. This is just basically we need about 3 hours to go through all the SNP's failures. So Scottish wildlife is at risk. So they've cut £100 million from environmental bodies. So that's down 40% in a decade. Right when the SNP are, you know, rattling the drum and saying, "Oh, we're being so green, we're being so positive. Let's have the climate conference here." And Scotland has a lot of rare flora and fauna. The next tab, we've got 1 in 9 Scots species is at risk of extinction. So that's a ptarmigan there, lives in the grouse moors. And this is interesting because I know a lot of environmentalists who aren't familiar with how the countryside actually works think that grouse shooting should be stopped because it's cruel. It's rich people going out in the moors and shooting these rare precious birds. And the truth of the matter is that grouse moors are. I used to work in the grouse moors up in Scotland. My dad's a gunsmith. And what they do is they maintain the grouse moors very carefully, so it provides this incredible habitat for things like ptarmigan, but also raptors, orchids, all kinds of flora and fauna. So it creates this amazing, rare environment, which. Like what people don't understand is like the countryside is a business. Somebody owns the land. So if it's not used for grouse shooting, it'll be used for the next most lucrative use, which could be
housing,
upland sheep farming. But and a lot of times, the next most lucrative use is blanket coniferous forestry, which is horrible. A complete monoculture. It's ugly. They're not native species, and like I said, it's complete monoculture. It doesn't support any flora and fauna apart from the trees being grown, and it also acidifies the soil and acidifies water courses downstream. So it's a real does a lot of ecological damage. But environmentalists would quite often rather have that than have grouse moors because it's cruel because the grouse are getting shot, even though the grouse are then getting eaten. So the grouse live an amazing life, a natural life. You can't raise pheasants are raised and then put down on the land. Grouse have to live wild, so they just make the environment nice for them, and the grouse are delicious as well. And it all gets eaten. Breeding seabird numbers in Scotland have almost halved since the 1980s. Just to be honest, I don't care about seagulls are absolute shits. Actually, there's some nice seabirds though, like these Arctic skuas. So they've dropped 81%. And the SNP should be doing something about this. If they're teamed up, they've been propped up in Scottish government by the Green Party, and they have been for some years now. So they should be doing something, but for some reason the Green Party is just obsessed with like trans issues instead of anything that's actually green. So, and if anything, transgender people are bad for the environment because they extra plastic. So, if we go down, Scotland has also missed another SNP failing. It's missed 11 targets on preventing species extinction, even though they lied and they said they were on track. So this is 11 out of 20. So this is more than half of their targets on species extinction. So you can see there's the red squirrel, there's some kind of fish, there's what looks like a narwhal. I've never seen any of these things. Actually, I've seen red squirrel in Scotland, but I haven't seen a narwhal. So it's ridiculous. The SNP have failed to hit their greenhouse gas targets for the third straight year. They've had plans to have carbon sequestration units on the power stations in Peterhead and stuff. And it's amazing they can't do this, given that the North Sea oil has basically just died.
Oh, has it?
Yeah. Oh man, like last year I think it was less than $500 million in revenue.
Oh, really?
It's crazy considering that it was up around 15 billion not long ago. The government and the whole Western world, well, particularly the UK, has been moving from a sort of fossil fuel, a carbon-based power economy, to renewables. So they're putting all these windmills up. So windmills being a 14th century technology used in Holland to grind grain, is coming back as
a lot of shout outs to Holland today. I don't know why. Seem to be doing something right.
And windmills. They're fine. I mean, there's some issues with windmills. They actually draw power from the national grid when. Because they got to balance and stabilize and all the rest of it. When they're churning, they do generate power, but then there's a lot of they break very easily because of the buffeting by wind. It's not like a turbine in a power station that's in, very pristine and being fed directionally and stuff. There just aren't. They're just, when the wind doesn't blow, as we saw a few weeks ago, we don't generate any power.
Yeah.
So, And also, the SNP said there's going to be 28,000 jobs created in the offshore wind farm Because Scotland's got, I think it's 25% of Europe's, or the UK's got 25% of Europe's like wind farm available land. We've got sea shelves with shallow water, and I mean these wind farms, they do some environmental damage. They're bad for migrating birds. They're bad for shipping. But they said, we're going to create 28,000 jobs. Only 6%, like a tiny fraction of the jobs they promised were actually created. And you know why? Because they're not making anything in the UK. It's all getting offshored, like they do with the recycling. They send it to Africa to get burnt. And same thing here. They're getting all the wind farms being made in France or the Netherlands, in Holland. And
what's Holland doing right that we're not doing?
Well, they've got that windmill history. But yeah, so I mean, the SNP, just an absolute shambles of a government, and you'd think at least, if you're spending so much taxpayers' money, UK taxpayers' money, not Scottish.
Well,
much, but if you're spending all this taxpayers' money, building wind farms and stuff, so they promised a windfall in jobs, and it didn't arrive.
None of it materialized.
It's disgusting. So that's. I've rattled through that, but yeah, I just think the whole concept of having a climate change conference in Glasgow is ridiculous as a concept. Like, Scotland is the one country that's really crying out for some climate change. The climate there is horrible, so it's ridiculous.
If you enjoyed that segment from the podcast The Lotus Eaters, you can watch the full thing at 1 p.m. every weekday at lotuseaters.com, or you can sign up to get access to all the premium content we have on the site.
Yeah, we've got loads of really good stuff. Every week we have a Contemplations and Epochs episode that goes up, and in the Contemplations we talk about just interesting things, and the Epochs episodes are probably my favourite because I love talking about history. This latest one is we're doing a bit of a series on the 100 Years' War and why England kept winning. And we've not finished it yet, and you're going to really enjoy the end of that one. But we've also got other excellent episodes that we do, like the book club. The most recent one was Shooting an Elephant by George Orwell. This was about his time in Burma as a colonial officer, and when he was tasked with the shooting of a rampaging elephant. And it's really, really interesting what the circumstance of the thing was. But we also have lots of other content, such as premium articles, which have audio tracks on them for our silver and gold subscribers. And we do premium podcasts about things that we don't really feel that we can put on YouTube or have done a particularly large amount of research into. And so it's worth keeping them slightly more private. And we also do lots of very interesting interviews, such as this one with comedian Steve Hughes, which was really fascinating because I didn't expect him to be a philosopher. But anyway.
Yeah. Also, the last thing to mention is the live event content we have. So we occasionally, when we get around to it, doing our live events, and the videos from them are on the website as premium, of course, because people came to see and paid. So go and check that out. This is on the worst of critical race theory.
Yes.
And I do mean the worst.
It's unconscionable.
Yeah. So if you'd like access to all that premium content, go to lotuseaters.com and subscribe. Thank you and goodbye.